Okay, so today we will continue with the next point, that is pathology helps us to identify the phenomena of suppression. That is also a very important point we must know, because in homeopathy, many a times, or rather most of the times, we get patients coming to us from other pathies, and they've taken enough of treatment so that the symptoms which are exhibited, they are not seeing clearly. So therefore, suppression is also known as an expression block. The vital energy, which is the expression of life itself, maintains the harmonious working and maintains the state of equilibrium, which is perfect health. So as you all know, the vital force or the vital energy, it maintains the harmony of life. That is, it maintains equilibrium with the mind, body, and soul. So whenever equilibrium is maintained, health is there. And whenever equilibrium is toppled or is disabled, then the disease comes inside. So there are many external forces which act upon the vital energy, yet its harmony is undisturbed. That means the person is there and he is constantly bombarded by the environmental factors, as a result of which initially the vital energy is quite strong to resist the environmental factors. Later on, what happens? The vital force gets weakened and there is a failure of adaptation. Once adaptation fails, the vital force gets deranged and the disease sets in. So this is very important point to note down, that there is a failure of adaptation. Once there is a failure of adaptation, then the disease will set inside. And if these external forces persist, then it has a great influence in inhibiting its normal functioning. So naturally, if the environmental factors, they constantly bombard the individual, adaptation is lost, as a result of which the normal physiological functioning of the body is also lost and the disease process sets in. So when the normal functioning is inhibited, the immediate reaction is a lack of harmony with the suppressed functioning of the vital force. So inhibition is there of the vital force, as a result of which the disease sets inside. Thus, the disease conditions are produced with irregular functions of the body. So whatever processes are going on in our body, physiological, like respiration, secretion, excretion, anabolism, catabolism, and so on and so forth, these all get disturbed. Vital force gets disturbed, vital energy gets disturbed, as a result of which the equilibrium moves to disequilibrium, health moves to disease, harmony moves to disharmony. And naturally, then the pathology will set inside. So we get the physiological changes, then we get the pathological changes. And the disease will definitely travel from more deeper or into the more vital organs. So initially, the symptoms exhibited are superficial. When suppression takes place, it goes more deeper into the vital organism. Now, this is a very important point to remember, that when do we say that suppression takes place? We do not say that suppression will take place when allopathic treatment is given. Okay, if so, all the cases which we are getting will be of suppression. Now, when can you label it as suppression? With regard to this point which I've just told, if the patient is on allopathic treatment for a number of years, not on a very regular basis, say every 15 days the child is on antibiotics because he has a cough and cold. Okay, so this can be taken as a sort of a suppression because he's on antibiotics for quite some time. So not all those people who are on allopathic treatment will be suppressed. Okay, so that has to be remembered, because that will depend upon the integrity of the vital force. So for suppression to occur, the disease must travel into the more deeper organ. That is what, from the superficial plane, it has to go to the deep plane. From the less important organs, it has to go to the more important organs. From the periphery, it has to go to the center. So when this shift takes place, then we say that suppression takes place. Or if you go to see miasmatically also, when the shift takes place from sora miasm, directly to syphilitic miasm, psora miasm to psychotic miasm to syphilitic miasm. So this shift has to be seen. Then only we can say it is a case of suppression. So it is a misnomer to say that every case is a case of suppression. This shift has to be seen from less important organs to more important organs. Now let us see what are the causes of suppression. Most important is the mental cause, like shock, fright, fear, excessive joy, or an intense unsatisfied longing for a mate or offspring, unrequited love, grief from loss of family or friends, business apprehensions and worries, disappointed ambitions, and as a result of which there is extreme fatigue and exhaustion of the mind. So all these factors which I've written, they will cause great exhaustion or brain fag or fatigue, which are important causes of suppression. Now the physical causes, the one which hits the list is the modern medication, especially rampant use of antibiotics. Nowadays, people are using antibiotics even for a common cold. And so basically what are they doing? They are misusing it. Even antihistaminics or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAID, sedatives, tranquilizers, hypnotics, narcotic drugs, hormone replacement therapy, use of corticosteroids and immunosuppressive drugs, or even topical applications. This also has an important factor for suppression, like use of ointments. Which ones? Antifungal and antibacterial ointments or creams. Another important part from the homeopathic point of view comes suppression of natural secretions, like perspiration in the armpits and the feet by use of any medicinal powders, or the sudden suppression of sweat by plunging in for a cold swim after exposure to hot weather, or suppression of menses by cold baths. All these are the constitutional features of psoric miasms, which aggravates the condition of an individual. So psoric people are better by normal secretion. So when the normal secretion, they get suppressed, the people of the psoric miasm gets aggravated. Or homeopathically also, another important cause is suppression of abnormal discharge. They are the constant features of psychotic miasm, which ameliorates the condition of the individual. So in psychotic miasm, the patient is better by abnormal discharges. So when the abnormal discharges are suppressed, they get aggravated. And external application of drugs, like preparations for the use of removal of skin manifestations such as eczema, scabies, warts, psoriasis, so on and so forth. Okay, so all these form an important cause of suppression. Now let us see the other surgical and other causes. So frequent form of suppression in modern days is removal of the disturbing organ by surgical means. Example, removal of a tonsil, removal of an appendix, or drainage of an ischiorectal abscess, etc. So basically, any removal of an organ also is a form of suppression. All this is mentioned in your books on philosophy. You can read it. Or even the use of cautery. Okay, in the olden days, chemical cauteries were used, and nowadays we are using the electric cautery. Or radiation. Even superficial and deep radiation or deep X-rays which are used, or quartz or cobalt-60, which is used, radium, cesium, radioactive iodine-131, and phosphorus-32 is used. Now this phosphorus-32, it is used to identify the malignant tumors, because the cancerous cells have a tendency to accumulate more phosphate than the normal cells. So if you use this, you can identify the tumor. Or even shock therapy. You see, in the olden days, as you all know, that Dr. Hahnemann has given the mental diseases a very humane touch or a humane treatment. So in those days, the people who were mentally deranged, they were given shock therapy by use of metrazole, that is an allopathic drug, or insulin or carbon dioxide. And now in today's world, we are using the ETCT, electroconvulsive therapy. Okay. Also, we go to the food and drinks and addictions, like excessive use. I'm saying excessive use of alcohol, tea, coffee, tobacco, or any other drugs like heroin or marijuana, etc. Or Let us come to even the miscellaneous causes. That is, ladies, they use all these beautify complexions, or that is also a form of suppression, or ample use of or misuse of deodorants and antiperspirants, use of medicated soaps, of tonics, and even application of very strong smelling perfume. Now let us see the result of suppression. So the immediate effect of the method of suppression, if persisted and continued over a period of time, it has the effect of driving the vital energy to express itself in some other form, and usually in a more deeper and more vital organ. So as I told you, the suppressive agent should be continued over a long period of time. That is very, very important also, in order for suppression to take place. If you use antibiotics or antihistaminics occasionally, then there will not be suppression. But it has to go continuously every month, every week, every alternate day, or every alternate month for a prolonged period of time. Then only the vital energy will be suppressed, and it will go from the less important organs to the more important organs. This, however, does not cure the disease condition, and the chronic miasm that has been expressed through the skin manifestations is forced to hide its head, and later on express itself in some deeper and more vital part near the center of vitality. That means what? If the disease has been suppressed, do not think that you have cured the disease, but actually the disease goes more deeper into the organism, which at present you cannot see. So therefore, whatever miasm was responsible for the disease, it gets pushed back into the organism. That is, from the external skin manifestations, it will go into the more deeper part and affect the center of vitality. In this course of treatment is persistently continued and the condition continually suppressed, the patient becomes really impossible to cure. So if this goes on taking place, then naturally the patient, or even a curable disease, will become an incurable disease. That will depend on how long the suppression is going on, whether you have identified or not, and secondly, what drugs are used and what are the side effects of those drugs also. The danger from the suppression is very great. For the longer they are suppressed, the more likely they take on to the nervous and the mental manifestation. So more the suppression, then it may affect your psyche or the central nervous system, and as a result of which it will go into an one-sided disease. The patient only will express some mental derangement. So you have to identify what is the cause of this mental derangement. Striking at first the very seat of life and reason, and then expressing itself. So what is the treatment of suppression? Number one, as a homeopathic physician, you have to identify the phenomena. So if you are knowledgeable, then only you will be able to identify the phenomena. If not, then it will go on like this. Secondly, once you've identified that this is a case of suppression, you stop the offending agent. That means whatever allopathic treatment he is taken, that is the offending agent. If possible, if you can stop it, then you can stop it. If you cannot stop it, then you just cannot stop it suddenly. You can later on taper it off slowly. Okay, so people who are on antihypertensive drugs, who are on anti-diabetic drugs, anti-epileptic drugs, steroid therapy, etc., all these cannot be stopped suddenly. Okay, so those drugs which can be stopped, like antibiotic, anti-inflammatory, antihistaminic, sedative, tranquilizer, so on and so forth, then you have to stop it. Okay, you can give a placebo and call the patient for a follow-up, or you can give an antidote if the previous medicine is known, or use a universal antidote. Many a times, patients come to us going from many other homeopathic doctors and then coming to you. So if at all you know that doctor, or the patient knows what the last medication he has taken, you can see the remedy relationship table and you can accordingly antidote. But however, this is difficult to get because none of the homeopathic doctors will tell the patient what medicine they are giving the patient. So best part is what? Either give a placebo or give a universal antidote like Nux vomica, coffea, or camphor. And again, call the patient for a follow-up after 7 to 15 days. So once the placebo has been given, what will happen? The suppressive or the symptoms which were not clear they become again very clear. Which were incomplete symptoms become complete symptoms. Hazy symptoms become clear. Symptoms which were ill-defined, they become well-defined. So then what do? We again have to retake the case. So once you retake the case, what happens? You definitely get some symptoms to prescribe on. Or if you do not get some symptoms to prescribe on, then what do? Then you have to naturally take the use of the repertory. So you have to see the rubric for suppression in the repertory. In Kent's repertory, in page 1369, under generalities, you will get irritability, excessive physical lack of. So this is the only rubric of suppression given in Kent's repertory. And in Boger-Bonneusen's characteristic and repertory by C.M. Boger, we have got two rubrics. Number one, eruption, discharge, etc., suppression or non-appearing after aggravates, page 1117, and discharges suppressed or not appearing, amelioration, page 1113. So if you see these rubrics, either in Kent or Boger's repertory, you will find a number of remedies are there. So from these remedies, you have to identify which suitable remedy may fit the case to some extent. I'm not talking that it will be it will be the simillimum, but it may be a partially similar remedy or a identification of a suitable remedy. So once you give this remedy, what will happen? The old symptoms again will reappear. For example, patient has asthma, you are treating him for asthma, and patient doesn't know that it has been suppressed. And after treating, what happens after giving the suitable remedy? The skin symptoms come back and the asthma is better. So we have seen that the suppressed channel which was blocked, it again opens up. So basically energy is there, it cannot be destroyed, but it can be transformed from one place to another. So out here, what are we seeing? The energy which was there externally has gone internally. The lungs have been affected, as a result of which there is bronchial asthma. Now what happens? The energy which was blocked on the external surface, that is the skin symptoms, it again opens up and the skin symptoms come back. Asthma is better. So what do? We have to just wait and watch. So gradually and slowly, the skin symptoms will disappear on its own. However, it may so happen that the skin symptoms are less, but they have not completely gone. Then what do? Then we have to choose a remedy according to the symptom similarity and then administer it. However, this is a very rare case to occur. Normally, if you just wait and watch, give a placebo, things they definitely get settled. But it will take some time. You have to reassure the patient to be patient, and you have to constantly give psychotherapy to the patient so that you have to give enough time for the symptoms to disappear. So examples of suppressions, if you read different books on philosophy, they are writing, while treating joint complaints, there is a classical amelioration and the throat symptoms come up. So the throat symptoms is the return of the original complaint. Then what do? We just wait and watch, do not give any remedy. However, if you do, then again the disease will be pushed back and no cure will take place. So streptococcal infection of the throat is there and the joints have been affected. Patient comes to us, and while giving the remedy, the joint pains again come back. So do not again suppress the joint pains. You have to know that it is a return of original symptoms. While treating the joint complaints, you notice that the heart is involved and the ECG shows increase of PR interval. So definitely now you know that you are on the wrong track, because whatever medicine you have chosen is not correct. It is a partially similar remedy and the disease is traveling more and more deeper into the organism, that is the heart has been affected. This is definitely contrary to Hering's law of cure. It shows a reversal reaction that is opposite of Hering's law. This indicates that the susceptibility is poor or it is altered or tampered with. So what action you have to take? Immediately stop the homeopathic medication. You have to antidote either by looking at the remedy relationship table or give a universal antidote, retake the case, search for the correct simillimum, and stimulate the susceptibility in the correct direction. Other examples of suppression are suppression of piles of fistula, giving rise to pulmonary phthisis, suppression of skin eruptions, giving rise to bronchial asthma, suppression of otitis media, giving rise to facial neuralgia, or suppression of leukorrhea, giving rise to abdominal pain. The next point is pathology helps to determine the prognosis of the disease. So out here, number one, the assessment of susceptibility is important from the homeopathic point of view to perceive the vitality of the vital force. And the naturalness of the disease, especially the evolution, should be taken with great care and attention. The factors which help to prognosticate, it's the predisposition, disposition, and the expression. In predisposition, as I told you, it comes from a Latin word prayer, meaning before, and disponere, meaning put in order, arrange, or distribute. So if you have a predisposition to think or act in a certain way, you will anticipate your reaction before it happens. Therefore, a genetic predisposition means you are likely to inherit a trait from your parents. Example, someone might have a genetic predisposition to diabetes or to any other illness. So the predisposition is nothing but is obtained from the family history and the past history of the patient. Therefore, we have to see the family and past history of the patient. It helps us to identify the fundamental miasm, and examples are family history of warts, bronchial asthma, and benign tumors will indicate that the fundamental miasm is psychotic in nature. Disposition, you're getting a reference 210, 212. It means a person's inherent qualities of mind and physical character. The synonyms are temperament, character, personality, nature, type, typology, and constitution. So disposition will be the constitution of the patient. Constitution is the physical constitution, not only the physical constitution, but also the mental and the physical makeup. So it is partially inherited, but majority of it is acquired. It helps us to arrive to a simillimum, and it will include the age, sex, build, occupation, etc. of the individual. Expression, it means something that manifests or symbolizes as seen through signs and symptoms. It includes the different phases at different levels of expression. The early and the late phases of expression should be taken into account. So the phase, it means the different pattern of a disease manifestation, either an acute phase or a chronic phase. And the different levels of expression means the different ways a disease can be presented to a homeopathic physician, right from a functional disorder to a fulminating phase. Example, a case of hypothyroid has a predisposition of family of fundamental miasm of psychosis, as evident by family history of warts and obesity. So in the case of thyroid, you are seeing the predisposition of family is of warts and obesity, that is the psychotic miasm. The disposition on the mental and the physical plane are obesity, pot-bellied, and stubborn in nature. So as I told you, the disposition is made up of not only the constitution, but also the mental and the physical makeup. So stubborn in nature is a mental attribute, and physical is obesity and pot-bellied. And the expression of the case are swelling of the face, that is early, and high cholesterol, that is late. So this is the classical example of how do we identify the predisposition of the patient.